Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to Money in the Morning. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I hope everybody's having a great day. In case you don't know, Money in the Morning is where we get together and we discuss Black economics. And we do it all from a Black perspective. We call that B1. B1 means Black first. Black first means we put our community at the top of our priority list. Black first means that we want to break generational curses, not continue them. Black first means that we put ourselves ahead of the people that we were trained to serve. And so, if you agree with that philosophy, if you agree that we should educate our own children, create our own jobs, support Black-owned businesses, put a B1 in the chat. B1 is kind of the calling card of the Black First mentality. And today, I wanted to hop in and give. I want to break down a few things that I talked about on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. So if you go to Dr. Boyce Finance and you type things like, if you put the word money in the chat, I'll send you a free copy of my training called How to Make Money Without Working. It's very popular. A lot of people like it. Also, if you put the word stock anywhere in any of the comments, I'll send you a list of my favorite AI stocks. There's a lot of money to be made out here, and I want you to get a big piece of it, and I want you to win. I want you to be positioned for economic power and intelligence. I also believe this, and it's every now and then I like to just restate with clarity where I stand on a lot of issues. I believe in thinking. I believe in free thinking. I believe in processing information because if you process information, you're going to make better decisions. Also, if you look outside the box, you're more likely to find solutions that will help you inside the box because we all know that as Black people, unfortunately, we were trained to kind of stay inside a box. That's just what it is. So as we get ready for the All Black National Convention, which I'm super pumped up about, I cannot wait. I wanted to take you guys on a quick little digital field trip. We're going to go to this very strange, very peculiar place called called Dr. Boyce's Instagram page, and I want us to sort of use the world as our little lab, our little university, and I want to lay out a quick financial lesson that we can learn from in terms of where Black wealth disappears to, and we're going to start today with. Sha'Carri Richardson. Sha'Carri Richardson is this really amazing athlete. I'm a big track and field fan, by the way, and I'm a big fan of Sha'Carri Richardson. I followed her career very closely, all the way back when she had her days at LSU, where she won the nationals as a freshman. People knew that she was going to be a superstar back then. And by the way, if you just so you know, I want to stop for a minute. If you put the word money or stock in the chat here, it won't work. If you want to get that stuff, you got to go to my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. So don't put it here. Either go to my Instagram, Dr. Boyce Finance, or you can text it, text those words to the phone number 87948. So either text it to 87948 or go to the Instagram and just put it in the comments, and that's how you get access to the free resources. So I want to make that clear as we move forward. All right. So how many of you saw, give me a yes in the chat if you saw that Sha'Carri Richardson got into this crazy blowout with her boyfriend, Christian Leitner, who happens to be one of the fastest men on earth. Did anybody see that? It was really sad. It was kind of like whoa, but you get it. I mean, I get it. I mean, you're in your 20s. Relationships get crazy in your 20s, and I'm gonna play something from my Instagram. Where I was just sort of watching the video and just kind of observing it. And I want to let you guys know what I was thinking as I was sort of watching this. And some of you may be able to guess the direction I'm going, but I'm going to nail it down real clear and just hopefully convince you with complete clarity and just an abundance of evidence that emotional regulation, the inability to regulate emotions, the lack of therapy, the lack of interest in addressing untreated trauma in the Black community is probably costing you trillions of dollars as a community. Your family could have millions of dollars in it if you had people that had a different mindset and more emotional intelligence. So let me show you why emotional intelligence is one of the most valuable assets you can ever purchase in life. So here it is. So here you can see as you're watching the video, you don't have to hear the audio. You guys can listen to me. Let me know if you can still hear me. I want to make sure you guys can still hear me. Can you still hear me? Give me a quick yes to let me know because I don't know if it's sharing the audio from the thingamajig or not. But anyway, I'm watching this video here, right? And you can see where Sha'Carri, I'm not going to show too much of it because this is not about trying to embarrass them. I just wanted you to kind of see what was going on. So you can see down here, she's pushing him. He's walking away from her. She's following him around, being very aggressive, pushing him again. So she's clearly upset about something. I don't know what that is, but one of the things, obviously, to me, an obvious response would be for sure if violence enters your relationship, you should walk away. Just know someone in our B1 community just died this year. Robin Simpson just got stabbed 100 times in front of her husband, in front of her daughter, because she did not take heed to the red flags that her husband was showing in terms of having unstable behavior. So if you get in a relationship with somebody that's behaving unstably, you got to leave because you don't know what's driving, what demons are driving their behavior that might cause them to just one day lose it and decide that they want to kill you and kill themselves. So this is something that's real. This happens all the time, especially if you're young. Don't ignore the red flags. I've seen too many people die in relationships where they thought the violence was harmless. The second piece to this too, though, is I want to dig into this very simple thesis that I have, and I believe this to the core of my soul. Yeah. I believe Sha'Carri Richardson has lost probably at least $100 million in generational wealth because of her trauma as a child. I identified the trauma when I heard her when she first got in trouble or suspended for smoking weed, which obviously we know smoking weed's not that big of a deal, but in track and field it is a big deal. And they I guess they found it in her system and they told her she couldn't run, so it became kind of a big thing. And so at that moment she became a billionaire in that moment. She was a billionaire because one of the most valuable commodities in America is attention. Attention can be converted to multi-billion dollar asset. Just ask Mark Zuckerberg, who makes probably $50 million a day, because he's able to keep your attention through this thing called Facebook, this other thing called Instagram, this other thing called WhatsApp. So attention is a multi-billion dollar commodity. And so Sha'Carri Richardson, if she'd been under good advice, let's say I was her mentor or somebody like me, who could really help her seize that opportunity, she could have turned that into $1 billion. She literally, I'm not joking, I'm not exaggerating, but again, maybe it's because I'm a finance professor and you see the little things. It's like almost like being a financial auto mechanic where you could see how you could put the pieces together. But literally, she gave away $1 billion empire because what happened was, I remember she was on national TV and they said, "Well, what happened, Sha'Carri?" And I guess her PR team, helped her to, speak eloquently about what happened. And she said that I was upset about the death of my biological mother. And that was immediately my spidey senses went up. I said, "What do you mean your biological mother? What is a biological mother?" I just have a mother. Does anybody in this room, does anybody have a mother that you grew up with that you call your biological mother? Anybody? How many of y'all think that's a little peculiar? Give me a yes if you think that's a little strange. Right? What your biological mother? Yeah, again, I have a biological father and I didn't know the man. That's why I call him my biological father because I have a real father that actually raised me. So when she said that, I said, "Oh man, I wonder if this could be connected to the very broad, systematic extermination slash annihilation of black culture that took place during the crack epidemic, crack and mass incarceration. They were the twin towers that basically took down the whole black community where you have millions of kids that grew up, they were raised by their grandparents because mom and daddy were in the streets doing only God knows what. And stop telling, don't, do not, let's never pretend like this is just a rare occurrence or this is very common. I have a very close friend who says, yeah, my sister died from a drug overdose because she was smoking fentanyl with my father. Like I have a friend who said that to me. That's a very strange thing to say. That's not a normal experience. That is not a normal experience. So drugs and all this other stuff just did terrible things to the black community. Not putting drugs in her family. I'm not saying this is what happened here. I don't know the details, but I do know that, and most of y'all know. Let me give me a guess if you know somebody who was raised by their grandparents, their aunts, uncles, cousins, because mom and daddy wasn't around for whatever reason, right? All right, so and I'm one of them. My father, for my dad, the drug of choice was heroin, and that led to a multi-generational breakdown of our family. In fact, when I go to Kentucky this week for a couple of days, I'm going to meet with my brother and sister that I don't even know that well, but I know them, but I don't know them the way I should because of my father's situation, my father's choices, right? So men, just pay attention, and women too. When you create these divided families, you're creating problems that are going to exist 40 years after you're gone. Like you're creating problems that are going to last until the year 2100. So be thoughtful about the choices you make. There are butterfly effects when it comes to generational wealth, generational family, generational trauma, right? So here's the thing. So when I heard her say that, I said, "Uh-oh, there's trauma in the building. I hope that she knows how to keep her cool." So then I saw Sha'Carri run because again, I'm a big track and field fan. I used to be a track coach. That's how much I love track and field. So I watched her perform in a race in Oregon. I forget what it's called, Prefontaine Classic. For the first time ever, you had millions of people watching a track meet. And I said, this is great. The athletes deserve attention. They are extraordinarily good. Noah Lyles is amazing. I tweeted at him and I said, I should not have more Twitter followers than you. You're so much more talented than I'll ever be. Why do I have more Twitter followers than the fastest human being on the planet? That's crazy. So anyway, suddenly all these people were watching this track meet. Sha'Carri goes out there and she just folds like a dead flower. I mean, what I don't know what was going on, but she got dead last and got blown away, and it was really really bad for her. So she, if you remember, she did that interview. She's on NBC talking to millions of people, and she gets on there and completely blows the interview. Anybody remember that? She gets in there, she starts cussing. She says, you could talk shit if you want to, and da da da. Right? Trauma response. That's what that was. That's a trauma response, right? Because she's pissed, she's traumatized, she's mad, she's hood, right? And what was interesting to me was I was watching everything very, very closely because I really like to analyze things. And I said, this, she's blowing a major opportunity because she's got this billion-dollar commodity in her possession called attention. And rather than strategically utilizing this financial asset, where she could have easily signed a 40, 10, 20, $30 million deals. She could have signed a $30 million deal with a cannabis company. Okay, you got busted for weed. Okay, let's make that into a commercial where you somehow are promoting cannabis gummies or whatever the hell it is, right? She could have there are so many opportunities right there in front of her. And I could see where those opportunities probably went out the door because they're like, okay, nobody wants to do business with somebody that is not stable. Nobody wants to work with a person that they think is not gonna be consistent in fulfilling their business obligation. Kanye West had the same problem. I went through Kanye's finances in detail, and I kept seeing all this money that he was getting paid by Adidas and The Gap, and I said, I don't understand why you're throwing this all away. Maybe there's a better way you can handle this. And unfortunately, his trauma and his undiagnosed, untreated, whatever the hell's going on with him, has caused him to lose a lot of money as well, right? And it was kind of unfortunate because I said, man, I told my wife, I said, you're the best therapist I know. If he only would sit and listen for 30 seconds in terms of what therapy can do for you, in terms of teaching you how to regulate your emotions, he would have another $1 billion. He would be in much better financial shape. But for whatever reason, we tend to celebrate keeping it hood. We tend to celebrate destroying opportunities. We actually, people were cheering Sha'Carri on. No, the more ridiculous her behavior got, the more people were saying, "You go, girl. Don't you let nobody tell you nothing. You da da da." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. That's not how you do it. You can be strong. You can make your point. You can be as great as you want to be. But you have to approach things in a way that is intelligent, strategic. That's if wealth matters to you. Now, if you want to stay broke and poor, then that's easy. Just keep being crazy, be an asshole, yell and scream at everybody who makes you mad. Then that's great. You can stay broke. You'll be broke forever. But if you ever want to build wealth, you have to understand that building wealth is like building a building. If you build a building, you can't build a structure without stability. Do you understand? You have to build if you build if I want to build a complex, build a mall, build a castle, build an empire, I have to build it with structure. I have to maintain s- the stability of the institution that I'm building. If I'm a man, I build a family and I want this to be a great family. I have to be thoughtful. I have to have the blueprint. I have to lay it out. I have to execute with discipline and intelligence. I have to protect and preserve what I've been building. I can't go through like the Tasmanian devil and just react based on emotion to every little thing that pisses me off and slap my wife, beat the kids, cuss out the dog, and then somehow think that that's going to create a stable family. Do you understand? See, wealth is energy. Money is energy. Money is energy. Wealth is energy. Money is energy. All this is energy. You have energy. Your emotions are energy. And one of the most important things about building things that are structured and strong is it is the intelligent and precise and disciplined application of energy. It is the ability to store the energy, apply it properly, and make sure the energy is used to build and not to ruin what you have. So when you allow for yourself to go through life with undiagnosed, untreated trauma, and you are throwing your energy in every direction like the Tasmanian devil, then guess what? Nothing that you ever build will ever prosper. Until you do right. Remember when Whoopi Goldberg was in Color Purple? She said, "Until you do right by me, everything you do is gonna fail." Right? Well, I'm gonna say this to black people. Anybody listening, until you do right by you, everything you do is gonna fail. Until you do right by your mental health, everything you create is going to fall apart right in front of your eyes. Your families will fall apart. Your wealth will fall apart. Your health will fall apart. Your life will be destroyed until you go to the altar, sit down, and look in the mirror and deal with the insanity that has been injected into you from 400 years of slavery and oppression and Jim Crow and everything else that they've done to you. If you don't deal with that, if you can't deal with that son of a bitch in the mirror that's destroying all your opportunities and possibilities, you're going to always be angry. You're always going to be confused. You're always going to be oppressed. You're always going to be stuck. You're always going to be unhappy. You're always going to be broken. You're always going to feel anxious and mad and everything else. And I'm really talking to people that are tired of sitting around being mad. I'm really talking to those who are saying like, maybe there's actually a solution to this problem. Maybe black people aren't supposed to be broke all the time. Maybe there are things we can do to prevent that. So circling back on the Sha'Carri thing, this fight, this thing with her boyfriend, I thought about it. I said, man, this is so sad. She doesn't, she's forgotten. She's so mad right now. She's forgotten that she's world famous. She's forgotten that he was one of the fastest human beings on the planet. This man used to hold the world record in the 100-meter dash. I mean, first of all, just imagine how fast their children would have been. That right there would be amazing. The kids alone could be NFL stars and track stars. So just your babies are $1 million babies. Like if you have kids, if they sat down and said, let's use this God-given talent. Let's make let's have a flock of 8 kids. Those kids could go make millions of dollars for the family. That's a $1 billion move, just the kids, because you have special kids. These are superhero children. I mean, really, you can't. Sprinting is genetic, in case you don't know. In case you don't know this, you can't train yourself to run 9.79 in the 100-meter dash like Christian Coleman can. There's no amount of training my ass could ever do to run that fast. You have to have the genetics. Only African American people and Jamaican people tend to have those genetics. There's a couple out there, in maybe in Africa. There's a couple like Letsile Tobogo and people like that. But so Africans, Jamaicans, or really anybody rooted in Africa, you don't really see Europeans run that fast. You don't. Maybe they've had a couple of Chinese guys that are kind of fast, but if you ever go watch the Olympic final of the men or women's 100-meter dash, you will almost always see 100% black people in that race because we've got the genetics. So long story short, um, when you allow your trauma to take over and make decisions for you, it's like driving a car, and your trauma is going to wreck the car. Right? Your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, your part of your brain that you've used for meditation and reflection and goal setting, that's going to drive the car carefully and get you safely to your destination. The limbic system, the parts of you that gets triggered because something that just happened brings out some sort of horrible childhood memory. That's the part of you that's going to take that car, swerve it off the road, and drive it right off the side of the mountain. So the question then becomes for you, and everybody has to answer this question for themselves. Which part of me is going to be making executive decisions in my life? Am I going to allow the patient part of me to make decisions, or the impatient part of me? Am I going to allow the disciplined part of me to make my decisions, or the undisciplined part of me? Am I going to allow the calm and confident part of me to make my decisions, or am I going to allow the chaotic part of me to make the decisions? Is the adult in me going to make choices, or the child? And that really is a conscious thing, because if you are allowing the worst parts of you to make decisions in your life, then it's like building a business and letting a violent 8-year-old decide the direction of the company. That company is going to fail. That company will not succeed. And the reason I'm a big advocate of therapy, because a lot of anxiety and depression is linked to finances, by the way, and also a lot of finances is linked to anxiety and depression. So it's a two-way street. The reason I'm a big advocate of therapy is because good therapists, can give you lots of tools to handle that, to manage that. I have to use those tools all the time. I am not always my best version of Boyce. I'm not. There's times when your inner child comes out. There's times where you're angry as hell. There's times where you are triggered and scared and just mad or whatever, and you have to be able to consciously override that. And in fact, I even remember reading something that said basically that when you have heavy trauma, it disrupts the prefrontal cortex. It disrupts your ability to even make logical decisions. And if you study anything about wealth, or if you listen to any of the quotes from people like Warren Buffett says little things that give you all the clues you need. I'll use him as an example. I remember him saying that oh, wealth is just a transfer of money from impatient people to patient people. Patient people who are emotionally regulated can stay calm and cool, who have discipline, just sit back and they wait for the impatient, crazy people to hand over their money. When you go shopping, everything they do to get you to shop and spend money is driven by them seeking to manipulate your emotions. They tap into your fear. They tap into your FOMO. They tap into your need to fit in, your need to follow the crowd, your need for acceptance. They tap into all that, especially for Black people, because they know that Black people really want to be accepted. If you ever go watch that video, "How to Sell to the Negro," all they basically say is that Black people have low self-esteem and that if you convince them that they'll be accepted by society by giving you their money, they're going to do it all day long. That's literally what the video pretty much says. The Negro wants to feel like he is as good as everyone else. So make sure you offer him high quality products that are expensive because he'll buy those things because he wants to fit in. Like just go watch it. It's it's hilarious. It ain't nothing but pimping. That's what it is. It's pimping. So let me give you some theories here to kind of help you understand why Sha'Carri Richardson blew $1 billion, in my opinion, by not choosing emotional regulation. And I'm not even talking about what she's doing on the track. If you're a track fan, you're kind of confused by that too. She's really not running well. And what's interesting about Sha'Carri is she runs either really super fast or she'll run super slow. It's very weird. It's like and I have theories that we could talk about that later, but really it's kind of strange. It's not, and so I would be willing to bet you that she's probably also having a hard time emotionally processing that as well. But she's had she's had great moments though. The World Championships, she did an amazing job against the Jamaicans and really, made me proud. I was happy to see her perform well, but I really wish whoever's advising her, I wish they had more influence over her behavior because she doesn't understand what she's throwing away. So anyway, let me read. And so let's push Sha'Carri to the side. Now let's talk about you. Here are some theories that can really confirm this idea of mental health being connected to financial health. So there's one theory on emotional intelligence and wealth building by Daniel Goleman. And what he says is that emotional intelligence, EQ, includes self-awareness, emotional regulation, and empathy, which are skills critical for maintaining stable relationships and decision making. Self-awareness, that means having the ability to really look at yourself in the mirror and say, what am I doing right now? Like what how do others perceive me? Right? And you think about this, culturally speaking, you don't always have people out here. The crowd is not cheering you on to become self-aware. The crowd, it tells you, oh, just do you. To hell with those haters. You just do you. You just keep being you. You just keep on. No, like sometimes you need to sit back and say, okay, what am I doing? Right? Am I hurting people that I care about? Am I being perceived in a certain way? Right? Like you think about even relationships. I've seen people who are single for years and can't understand why nobody wants them. And I'm like, well, if you looked in the mirror for about 30 seconds, you'd probably see it, but you won't look in the mirror because you think the world is wrong and you're right. And all your friends are lying to you and confirming your ridiculous behavior. And therefore, you are feeling like what you're doing is okay and that the world is the one that's wrong. And also, I've seen celebrities. Celebrities have a big problem with this. When I worked with Dame Dash a lot, I remember I don't think Dame understood why a lot of people didn't want to work with him. And I was like, well, I'm your friend, but I can see it, but you won't listen to me, so I'm never going to tell you. And so I just, I like Dame. Dame was a great. We were really close. We would go. I would go to LA and go. We would hang out the whole weekend, And I have no idea how I ended up friends with these rappers and stuff. But we're about the same age, and and I would just sit there and I'd say, man, if you were able to kind of sit back and really take advice from people that can see certain things, I think you could really go a long way. And but unfortunately, the culture doesn't encourage that. The culture says you're fine, keep doing you, no matter what. Never question yourself. None of that. And I just kind of think that that's a flawed strategy. I think if you want to be really successful in life, have somebody really tell you the truth about yourself. If you really got some guts, go do it after we get done. Go talk to somebody you love, your spouse, your best friend, whoever, and just say, tell me the stuff about me that you would be afraid to tell me. And then examine that, right? Just be open to it. Because a lot of times we want to examine negative things about ourselves because somehow it affects our confidence. Or it breaks the armor, the false shield that we built up, right? This false fake confidence that we built up by basically putting walls up. Like I'm confident in who I am because I'm not hearing any criticism. If you really want to ever get strong, learn that power of introspection. I saw that word in the chat. Like really learn how to let people really tell you stuff that you don't want to hear, where you got to grit your teeth and be like, right? And then just try to understand where they're coming from. And if you can do that and withstand that fire and learn from that and grow from that, then you'll find that your confidence is no longer fake confidence. It becomes real confidence. You can then acknowledge areas that you might want to improve so that you can really truly be the best person you want to be. Or you could go live in a fantasy world, which a lot of people do that. All right, so maybe fantasy worlds are better. By the way, if anybody wants to see the video she carry, you can go to my Instagram. It's Dr. Boyce Finance. And all it is her fighting with her boyfriend. And again, just in terms of practical advice, I always tell young black men, if you have a situation with a woman that insists upon physical violence, you should try to walk away as quick as you can because historically, when they come to the house and they decide who to arrest, they're going to arrest the man. They're not usually going to arrest the woman. Sometimes they'll arrest the woman, but usually it's going to be the man. And also, when you get trapped in the criminal justice system, it becomes very expensive in terms of time, money. Your reputation could be ruined, even if it's a false accusation. And so, even if you even get like an inkling of an idea that you're dealing with somebody who might falsely accuse you of something, get away from that person. Stay away from them as far away from them as possible. It's one thing if you really do something bad to somebody. If you're a person that beats a woman or rapes women or something, I can't speak for you. I don't even want to talk to you. But if you're a good person who wants to be helpful to others, if you even get one sense that she's capable of falsely accusing you of something or lying or manipulating the truth, that's a person to walk away from. Because I see a lot of good people get destroyed just because somebody accuses them of something. So, and really for women, the danger is a little bit different. Like men are strong. We have testosterone. A crazy man will kill you. It's weird. It's crazy to me how I know several women who've been murdered by their husbands. It's ridiculous. It's nuts. It's like, how do I know so many women who were killed by the man who claimed to love them? So for women, it's even more vital. In fact, having that support network and stuff like that, and letting people know, like some stuff that we think is like just passionate love or whatever. I don't know. I always say that the man who loves you enough, like you hear somebody say, well, girl, he loves me so much he walked 10 miles in the snow just to kiss me. And my thought is, well, the same man who will walk 10 miles in the snow to kiss you will also walk 10 miles in the snow to kill you. So just make sure he ain't passionate about everything in the same way because that passion, what is it? Like sometimes violence is just like passionate love turned inside out, right? There's a thin line between love and hate. So the same passion with which somebody can love you is the same passion with which they can hate you. And so if they haven't committed to mental health and emotional regulation, then it can come out in a really bad way. So just me, that's Uncle Boyce talking. That wasn't Dr. Boyce. That was Uncle Boyce. All right. So let's see what else. So Goldman's research also shows that high emotional intelligence, EQ, correlates with better career performance, leadership, and conflict resolution, all of which directly affect your economic outcomes. So basically, when you learn how to regulate your emotions, that kind of just means staying cool under pressure. Somebody gives you bad news, you don't freak out. You say, okay, tell me more. And then you process, okay, let me go think about that. Or you're in the middle of a heated fight. This is something I learned. I didn't know how to do this 15 years ago. But if me and my wife get into like too much of a back and forth and it starts to get heated and I start feeling myself get dysregulated, I say, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit. I need a timeout. and I'll just leave and go and do something else. And then when we come back, it's a different conversation. You understand? Just little stuff like that can really go a long way in preserving the things you're trying to build, your business, your relationships, your whatever. All right, moving on. So therapy can help with EQ, which means less emotional volatility, better business partnerships, and stronger romantic relationships that don't drain your energy or your bank account. Um, the whole divorce industry makes all of its money because people can't regulate their emotions. Just a lot of their entire industry is built around the mistakes people make that are connected to a lack of emotional regularity. So if you are a person that thinks things through, that's another little trick. If you're about to make a decision, just think about it for a while. Like imagine how differently the world would look if everybody was required to spend 3 days thinking about it before they had sex with somebody. Like if you want to have sex, you fill out the application, or you report it, you have to like fill out the form to say I think I want to sleep with this person, and you spend 3 days just processing like, okay, is this a good move? Is this, and let's say they ask you a bunch of questions like, okay, would this man be a good father? Would this woman, would you really want to have a baby with a stripper? Whatever it is, right? And you had to think about it. And then what happens is when you sit back and you think about stuff, you just get greater insights. I learned this actually when I was working on my master's when I was at Kentucky. We used to get them. This is where I learned the importance of just thinking about things, right? I don't care how smart you are, whatever, if you just sit and think about stuff, you gain insight and clarity that you would not have had if you think about it quickly. You live in a microwave society. Everybody does stuff quick. They make decisions fast. Things move really quick. If you sit back and think, I promise you, you will understand the world at a level that most people around you won't. So, when I was at University of Kentucky, we used to get these homework assignments that were insane. It would be one math problem, and we would have 1 week to solve the problem. 1 week. And literally you would get this problem and you would sit and look at it and you'd be like, I have no freaking clue how to solve this damn thing. I don't even know what this looks like Chinese. But you knew you had to solve the problem. If you didn't find the solution, you were going to fail the class. So you had no choice. So every day we would just sit there and stare at it, look at it. We'd look stuff up. We'd talk about it. We'd talk to people about it. Kind of, I go to sleep. I'd have a dream about it, right? The subconscious mind is kicking in. And every day, I kid you not, it was like magic. We would inch closer to the solution every day. And every week by the following Monday, we would have the solution. And that's what taught me. I said, okay, I get it now. Most of us miss all the layers of insight into decision making because we only stop at layer one. We don't have the consciousness to go to layers two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, or look at things from different perspectives. And I guarantee you that in almost every single area of your life, your financial life, as well as everything else, if you just sit and think about it and just hear different perspectives and look at it from different angles, you're going to typically make a different decision and come to a different conclusion than you would have if you'd made a snap decision, especially when it comes to stuff like picking a person to be in your life. I know people that literally date a woman because they like her booty, or women who literally a man tells her one funny joke, or she sees he's 6 feet tall and has some money, and then next thing you know, she's locking her like this man's DNA is in her body because he's 6'5" and has money. But if you sat down and you said, no, I need my relationship choices to be a 10-dimensional decision making process, and you say, okay, you're tall and you have money, but there's 8 other criteria that I need to kind of look at and I need to think about them very carefully. You're going to just make different decisions. And I think being picky in the big life choices is one of the keys to success that most people overlook. In fact, even picking a career. I've seen people pick a whole career where literally it was based on one conversation. Somebody says, you're good at arguing. You should be a lawyer. So next thing you know, they're like trying to go to law school. So I'm like, you're going to spend 30 years, 40 years as a lawyer because of one thing that one person said. That's massive. Those are those butterfly effects. So anyway, let me keep going. Attachment theory. This is another thing you should know about. Bowlby and Ainsworth wrote about this. They said that how we bond in childhood shows up in our adult relationships, especially when we're under stress. Anxious or avoidant attachment styles can lead to toxic patterns like overspending to please people, financial enmeshment. I don't know what that financial enmeshment. I guess connecting with people that financially, which you shouldn't be. Explosive explosive arguments that sabotage business and career opportunities. So a lot of us, a lot of black kids, I think, really go through anxious attachment because you have broken families and you also have children that are raised by children who are not yet stable emotionally themselves. So they form these anxious attachment styles and avoidant attachment styles, and it shows up in future relationships. Like you misinterpret what people do. You say, "Oh, you didn't do this, so that means you don't care about me anymore." And rather than even talking about it and saying, "This is how I feel, this is what I need," we just assume, "Oh, you must not like me anymore, so screw you," blah blah blah, right? So we escalate things. Healing through therapy can rewire your attachment wounds so we can build secure relationships that uplift us rather than destroy our financial foundation. So the ability to kind of manage that sort of thing makes a big difference because the more you're connected to other people that can help you make money, the more money you're going to have. Let's see here. Adverse childhood. By the way, I see somebody's mentioning Ethereum. Yeah, Calvin, you're right. We should talk about Ethereum. I'll talk about it really quickly. The Genius Act that the Trump administration just passed is basically pushing money into crypto big time. They're actually opening the door for major pension funds and major mutual funds and private equity to put money into crypto. That's going to cause massive growth in the crypto space because you basically just have more participants in crypto. Let me see here. Let me. Somebody says ETH is on fire. I own ETH, so I'm curious about that. I've been buying a lot of Ethereum lately. In case you want to know what I'm buying. Let's see here. Let's see. Ethereum. I'm gonna look up the price of Ethereum. Let's see what we got here. Okay, it's up 1% today. Okay, so it's not on, may not be on fire today, but let's see what it's been doing the last 3 or 4 months. Okay, so here's the price of Ethereum year to date. It's up 18%. That's good, not stunning, but 50% the last 6 months. So that's where the real win appears to be. And there are people that believe it's going to keep going up. So I buy Ethereum consistently. I also buy Bitcoin consistently. So crypto and stable coins and stuff like that. I also have shares in Circle, which is a stable coin company. I'm afraid though that Circle might be overpriced, but I'm going to buy it anyway because remember, even if you make an investment that does not go up, it's okay. At least you've been saving your money. I mean, it's better than spending it, right? So even so, think about it. Like if 5 years from now I have 80% of the money that I had in 2025, that's a win. Even if it went, so even if my investments go down, at least I have money that can secure me during a financial crisis. So don't ever let the fact that you might lose money keep you from investing. That's a myth. That's stupid. What else can you do with your money? You're gonna waste it, right? And last night, in fact, we were meeting for stock options class. We have a program called Coin, where it's certified options and investing network. And one thing that we did was I laid out something that I'll talk to you guys about called the liquid landlord, which basically is where I explained how I hated being a landlord. And I showed how actually by selling stock options and managing your portfolio with that, you can make as much money, if not more money, than you would as a landlord. But there's no work required. You don't have to do anything other than tap buttons on your phone. Also, you don't have any headaches. You don't have to deal with tenants and insurance and liability and there's all these other things. My wife and I didn't enjoy being landlords. We sold our property, or actually, sorry, we didn't sell our property. We when the tenant moved out, we did not. We just said we're just going to own it and use it, but we don't want to rent it out because it's like it was such a headache. Not to say you shouldn't do it though. I think real estate is fine. I think owning real estate's important as a diversification strategy. But in terms of making just straight cash flow, I've never seen anything better than selling stock options. So drboyceprime.com, that's our options income program if you want to take a look. All right, so here we go. All right, so adverse childhood experiences, the ACEs test. They have a test you can take. It's called the ACEs test, ACES. I encourage everybody to take it so you can kind of understand how deep your trauma is. So what they found is that unresolved trauma predicts not only physical health issues, but also long-term life instability, including lower earning potential and impulsive decision making. So basically, people with high ACEs scores who have high adverse childhood experiences, how many of you went through a bunch of crap when you were a kid? How many of you would say that you had a rough childhood? Anybody? Give me a yes if you're in this category. If you're in that category, then you're probably sick. I hate saying it like that, but you're probably sick like me. You have this illness in your body called trauma. There's a book written about it called The Body Keeps the Score. And basically they show all these different ways that not dealing with your trauma, just it's just like this ghost that will haunt you until the day you die. So I would encourage you to explore that if you want to be your best self and make the best decisions and put yourself in the best situation. So they said that people with high ACEs scores are more likely to struggle with self-regulation and conflict management, which can lead to broken relationships, broken families all over the Black community, lost income. You lose money because people don't like you or you don't like them or I don't mess with you and this is why I don't do business with relatives, stuff like that. Legal trouble. At worst, you're fighting and stuff like Sha'Carri and you get arrested, then you got to pay money to lawyers to get out of that situation, right? So healing trauma through therapy reduces these risks and makes room for long-term wealth planning and stable financial partnerships. One last thing to look at would be something called the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. And the theory is that people who live in emotional survival mode, who are always in survival mode, typically make short-term reactive decisions when it comes to love and money. Right? Like, I can't build a long-term relationship with you because my life is so unstable. So therefore, I just want to have sex with you. You see that a lot. When you see, like, for example, struggling young men. I saw, let me show you this video that was really interesting. It was something else. Let me see if I can find it here. I put this on my Instagram, my Dr. Boyce Finance. If you want to join the conversation there, you can. So let me share this video with you. This was wild. And again, I think that they dramatized it for effect, but it was really fascinating to me, and I'm going to tell you why. So give me one second here. And it relates directly to economics. So here's the video.
You have a son. I'm sorry. How old is he? He is 4. Okay. I do have a son. I'm sorry. How old is he? He is.
So did y'all see that? How many of y'all saw that? Were you able to hear that? Let me know if you could hear that. Okay. I tried to share the sound. Okay. So basically, it's that balloon popping show, which is kind of anti-family because it's really like, okay, I'm gonna go and pop a balloon based on who I want to spend my life with, which is absolutely the absolute worst way to make a long-term relationship decision. Like I'm gonna make a decision in 30 seconds and then pop a balloon. It's kind of, but it's entertaining, right? It's immature and it's highly unproductive and it's not what's the word? It's not a successful relationship building strategy. But, it's people like stuff that looks good on TV. And so anyway, this lady comes in and she says, I have a 4-year-old son. And then all the men start popping their balloons, right? Just like, let me get away from this. Oh, hell no, no way. Didn't take any time to get to know the lady. Didn't take any time to get to know the son. Didn't take any time to reflect on it. And I thought that was really fascinating. Now, mind you, I want to make it clear. I think it's okay for anybody to choose whatever they want, to have whatever preference they want. Some people don't like, some people are not interested in kids, and that's fine. I get that. Um, and it changes based on perspective. Like, at 54, I would give anything to have a time machine and be able to go back and have 3 or 4 sons. That's one of my greatest regrets in life is that when I was fertile and able, really fertile, super fertile and able to have kids and all that and raise them, I didn't take more time to have kids. But I have had the fatherhood experience. I've raised a lot of kids that I'm not biologically related to, but I'm very connected to them and it's the greatest blessing of my life. It's worth 10 times more than any amount of money I could ever have, right? But again, it takes time to get to that point, so I get it. But here's the thing though. One thing that's interesting about that video to me is that um what I think happens in the Black community too is that because you have this scarcity mindset, because money is tight, it can cause you to feel like you're not prepared for any type of responsibility other than yourself. I mean, think about this. Why would I want to take care of a woman and a child when I can barely get by myself? When I can barely keep a place to live, when I can barely pay the rent, when I can barely buy food, And so for a lot of people, it's very scary and traumatic when money is the primary decision maker in your critical life decisions. Um, because I can tell you for sure, my dating choices were very different when I was broke than they were when I had plenty of money. When you have plenty of money, I don't care if the kids want to eat too. I don't. You want to go on a trip? Okay, let's go. I'm thinking more like, okay, will my schedule allow it? Do I have the time? Are you getting on my nerves? Right? That's what goes through my mind. I'm not even thinking. I don't even, I mean, really, just being honest. When I got that first job at Syracuse and I was making plenty of money, I would go eat and I wouldn't even look at what the cost was. I didn't care. It wasn't a big deal, right? And this, sure, that's an aloof little rich man experience, and I hope all of you have that experience. I want all of you to have black privilege. I want all of you to be able to go through life and make decisions without money being the demon that blocks you from doing the things that you want to do. Um, and so what I really see there is, especially for younger men, especially those who've never been trained on how to make enough money, they get to the point where they have to make decisions in a one-dimensional fashion. It's like going, if I really got to go to the bathroom and I got to pee so bad I can't hardly stand it. That's all that matters right now. You could give me a pot of gold and say, "Hey, there's a pot of gold over here if you can wait for an hour." I'd have to pass up the pot of gold because I got to pee. I need a porta potty. I don't need a pot of nothing. I need a porta potty. That's what I need. So basically, money understanding money and teaching your sons and your daughters how to make enough money is really valuable, not because what money does necessarily, it's because what having money does in terms of giving you the ability to focus on all the other tens of thousands of things that matter outside of money. So, and a scarcity mindset really rigs your brain to the point where you have to make decisions in a highly suboptimal way. And when I say suboptimal, I mean you're not making the best decision. You can't live your best life because your best life lives behind a freaking paywall. Right? Like you really doing what you want to do requires you to have enough money to climb that financial wall so that you don't have to spend 12 hours at your job today. So when you give your children the gift of financial literacy and you invest for them when they're little, you're really unlocking so much power, so much freedom. Like so, because for example, I saw that video and I said, man, this is sad that these guys don't know what they're missing out on. She's got this beautiful 4-year-old boy. And none of these men are thinking like kings, in my opinion, because one thing that if you know history, one thing kings would do is if they conquered a village and the man they conquered, they killed, had strong boys, they would raise those boys because they said, "Oh, I got more warriors that I can train that are gonna be there with me when I go to battle. I'm gonna have more people that can help me to get things done in life, right?" And like a really loyal son is one of the most cherished assets that a man or woman can have in their life. Right. So to me, I'm thinking, okay, there's this 4-year-old boy, and let's say his dad is not around for whatever reason. So it's not his fault. He didn't tell his daddy to leave, right? Or whatever. He's an abandoned child. I kind of think, why can't we have some love for abandoned children? Like, why is it, or at the very least, I get it if they're men who can't take that responsibility or don't feel comfortable. But what's happened on the internet that's probably I think is a little bit embarrassing is that you have men that will shame men who want to give love to abandoned black babies. And I think that's where the line should be drawn. That's kind of inappropriate behavior. That's really embarrassing to the black community. I heard a white man say one time, he said, "Yeah, well, black men, they don't like responsibility. When you give them responsibility, they run away." And I said, that's not true. Most black men don't think that way. But then he was able to point to examples of men who do. And that's not something that's like him saying that black men are a bunch of punks. That's like him saying black men are basically little girls who are scared of anything that requires commitment, discipline, or focus. And I resent that because I know men who don't fit the description. My father didn't. I was a 3-year-old boy when my father married my mother. He had no obligation to me. He could have went and smoked weed and chased vagina like on his own and had plenty of girlfriends, but instead he chose to take responsibility for us. And the benefits to him were enormous. It was hard. It was very difficult. It was expensive. There were times where we didn't have enough money in the house. Stuff like that. He could have easily walked away at any point, but because of his definition of masculinity, he just said, no, this is my responsibility. I'm going to take care of this. And so he did that. He endured that. And so when I got older, I was very loyal to him. When he got to retirement, there was nothing that he did not have to want for. I have put hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into making sure that my father is always good and taken care of. Had he abandoned me or not been there for me, I would have not done that, right? So what I would say to you is you've heard me talk about how children are an asset until you make them into a liability. Children are an asset until you perceive them as a liability. Children are going to eventually run the world. They're eventually going to have more power than you. So what happens is that most 34-year-old men are going to take note of who cared about them when they were just 4-year-old boys. Right. So when he's a big, strong 30-year-old, he's going to look back and say, okay, who was really there for me when I needed somebody to bring me lunch to school? Like who really had my back when I was sad? Who gave me encouragement? Who uplifted me? And a lot of times what guys, where we do still get that in our community is from a lot of like the football coaches and stuff like that. Let me share one more video. And this is all related to wealth, but you can't talk about black wealth without talking about black culture because wealth is culture. And I hope I've made that point. Let me share one more video. There's a guy named Teddy Bridgewater who played for the University of Louisville. And I was very proud of Teddy because Teddy got suspended because he was actually giving money to the players on his football team that he coaches. And he was giving them rides home and stuff like that. But he stood on this 10 toes down, and I had so much respect for him. So check out what he had to say. Here goes.
I'm a father first before anything, and when I decided to coach, those players became my sons, and I wanted to make sure that I just protect them in the best way that I can, and I think that's what came about. You know, Miami Northwestern is in a tough neighborhood, and sometimes things can happen when kids are walking home and different things like that. So I just try to protect them, give them, a ride home instead of them having to take those dangerous walks. But I just want people to continue to see me for the person that I've been, from the time I arrived in the NFL, from the time that I arrived at the University of Louisville. Just a humble guy who has a big heart and a cheerful giver. There are a lot of changes, you'd like to see. But, you know, I guess in due time, those changes will happen. But until then, man, I can't change who I am, because of the rules. Like I have a big heart, I get it from my mom, and I just always said that I was once those kids. I know what it's like to be in their shoes. I know what it's like to walk those halls at Miami Northwestern, and to have your stomach growling and rumbling at 12 o'clock in the afternoon because you didn't have any lunch money or you don't get the free lunch. So I can't change who I am. I'll still give to those kids just because, man, I know what it's like. And I'll still give. Not only, when I say give, it's not even about money. It's about my time and my presence, because a lot of times you see your idol on TV and it's like, man, I wonder what it's like to be that person. But when they see me in the flesh and they see how, I'm an open spirited person and I'm happy and I'm around them and they fit right in with me and I fit in with them. And it's just hope. And I live by calling myself the neighborhood hope dealer. And I'm hoping that I'm, dealing hope to everyone back in South Florida and across the state of Florida.
All right. So let's like clap for that brother, man. That was great, right? That was beautiful. Um, because think about this. Teddy Bridgewater, he played in the NFL, I want to say like 10 or 12 years. And I knew him because he played at the University of Louisville. He was very good there. And he's made millions of dollars. He's got as much clout and swag as any celebrity out here. But he has, due to his experiences, gained a tremendous amount of empathy for abandoned black children, just children that, for whatever reason, don't have what they need, don't have the support they need. And we know that millions of black boys need a father figure. A lot of them don't have that, and he's taken up the mantle, like he's taken on the job, and I just think that represents the very best of what black men can be. Like that represents us at our best. And here's the thing, though, just going back to money, part of what allows Teddy to be his best self is that is that money isn't the obstacle that keeps him from doing the right thing. Because it's so I want you to think about how much of a demon money can be when you are trained with a scarcity mindset. Um, well, think about this. I've seen people say, well, I don't care about them kids. I can't afford to buy them lunch. I'm buying lunch for my kids. That's it. Teddy doesn't have that problem. He can buy lunch for everybody's kid, right? Because his heart's big enough and his bank account is too. Or I want you to think about how many times you might have seen children not get what they need because some Negro was scared of losing his job. Well, because Teddy Bridgewater's financially free, he's not worried about losing that stupid job. He's like, that's all right. I'll get another one. I'll figure it out, right? He's like, I'm not going to be homeless, right? So when you are in a situation where you either are allowed to become financially blessed or you find a way to bless yourself, it really opens that door for you to really truly do the right thing as opposed to doing what your boss tells you to do. Your boss will tell you to do something. Look at what APAC is doing to our congressman. APAC is the Israel Zionist lobby basically. They pay out the politicians, and so politicians, when they walk up and they say in Palestine they're shooting little children, starving little children that are trying to get food, they have to act like they don't even care. They have to ignore that. So money, when they say money's the root of all evil, that's what I see. Financial slavery is in my view, that is the root of all evil because what happens when you're a financial slave is you find yourself doing things that do not gel with your soul. You find yourself doing things that could be defined as flat out damn near demonic, all because that's what your boss told you to do, or all because of the financial consequences of doing the right thing. So what I encourage you to do is use money as a liberator, and when you use money as a liberator, it keeps you from being a financial slave. Everything Teddy Bridgewater said was correct. And everything he said um, was beautiful in the sense that he took his pain and he turned that into something that's made him into a superhero. Every superhero has an origin story, and most of those origin stories are terrible. Right? He was in the lab sweeping up and he got caught in the particle accelerator and chopped into 10 billion pieces. And then the pieces came together and turned him into Morph Man or whatever, right? Like we know how that works. So Teddy Bridgewater is a superhero in the black community. He's representing the best of what black men can be, and that's because he had a horrible origin story. He said, "I remember what it felt like to have your stomach grumbling and you couldn't get lunch because you didn't have the free lunch, right?" He said, "I know what it feels like to be in a dangerous neighborhood and nobody cares about you enough to make sure you get home safely. I know what it feels like to go want to be on the football team but you can't afford to get the shoes or whatever you need to play and people make fun of you, right?" So he's taken that experience and he's turned that into something that's made him into a really remarkable guy. And here's the other thing too. This is the other part about investing. He may not see it this way, but when he's pouring into those young men, he's making an investment. This investment's going to pay dividends for the rest of his life. By him showing up and showing out for those men and him saying, "These are my sons." He said, "These are my sons. I want sons." What he's doing is he's giving them love, something that money can't buy. And what they're going to do is they're going to carry that. So 20 years from now, 30 years from now, when he's an old man, and he needs backup. He will never run short of backup. He will never run short of guys willing to stand up for him, protect him, break him off some money. Whatever he needs, he's gonna have it because he's investing in people. The biggest investment you ever make is not a stock, it's not a bond, it's not a mutual fund, it's people. If you invest in people, then that will pay you dividends for the rest of your life. And when you see older people who themselves are abandoned or who themselves don't have love around them or who themselves are sitting in the stroke ward or the cancer ward and ain't nobody coming to see them. I mean, many times it's because they never invested in people. There was a nurse who did a really great video where she said that she works in the stroke ward, and she said there's so many black men in this ward who are in their 40s and 50s, handsome men, men that have good jobs, and they will sit there and they can't even change their own diaper now. They because they have the strokes and everything. And she said, I would ask him like, well, where's your family? Where's your wife? Where's your children? Anybody gonna come see you? And the man would be like, well, I used to be a player. I wanted to be a player and da da da. So what they're saying is I never invested in people, so nobody's gonna invest in me. I receive no dividends because I own no assets. I have no emotional assets in my life that care enough to even come and check to make sure that I'm okay. Right. And so really it's important when you're talking about investing, that's a real deep thing. All investing really is a sacrifice that embraces some sort of delayed gratification that allows you to receive a return on investment at some point in the future. Investing is just you creating some sort of time machine for yourself where you're going to receive rewards later because of things that you're pouring into right now. So, I just encourage anybody who wants to become a financial expert tomorrow to just ask yourself that question every day. What am I investing in? Am I just being selfish? Am I just investing? Am I just pouring into me and my pleasure? I mean, it's okay, but if all you're doing is pleasure seeking, that's no different from getting money and spending it all. If you spend all your money every time you get it, then why in the hell would you not expect to be poor and broke forever? Why would you're going to work until you die because you'll have nothing stored nothing saved for the future. You don't invest in your health, well, you're gonna go to the hospital. You're gonna get sick. Bad things gonna happen to you. You don't invest in people, well, then you'll get older and you'll get tired and you'll get tired of chasing women and stuff, and then no one will love you, and then you're gonna, be sad about that. So I would encourage everybody to just figure out their life plan. Like lay out, like imagine yourself 40 years from now and then work your way backward. And then try to figure out how you can balance happiness today with happiness later. Like that's really the win, right? If you overinvest, then you're miserable now, and I don't think you should make yourself miserable because tomorrow's not promised. But if you underinvest, then you starve. Then you have a lack of. And so if you look around and you see how many millions of people don't have any money in their bank accounts, don't have any savings, don't have any assets, all you got to do to solve that problem is go back and say, in 2021, what were you doing with your money? In 2016, what were you doing with your money? In 2012, what were you when you could have bought Bitcoin for $10? What did you spend your $10 on? Right? And that will explain uh, what happens now. In fact, I'm going to say this last point, and I'm just talking a lot. I hope it's okay. This is how I teach fine. I believe in conversational learning. I hope that's okay. And I know some people get mad. It sounds judgmental, but I'm sorry. I got to tell you my truth that I've seen. Um, you know how I look at time? I've been obsessed with time for like 25 years. I look at time in a certain way where I look at my life in the present as like a painting. And it's this painting where every stroke was pretty much created by me. And I've been stroking on this painting and drawing things in the painting for the last 10, 20, 30 years. Every good stroke, every bad stroke, and it creates this composite called the life of Boyce Watkins. And now it makes me conscious of saying, okay, what painting am I painting for the future? Or I'm writing a book about my life. And every choice I make, I'm writing a new chapter, I'm writing a new paragraph, I'm writing a new sentence in that book. So what are you writing in your book? Think about that, and that'll help you have the life that you want to have. It especially, and it's easy on the money side, the money part, we got that down. But what is also important too is that you don't get into the worship of money and you understand all the other incredibly valuable things that understanding money can help you have access to. So focus on that as well. Don't just focus on the money. The money ain't gonna make you happy. Um, It'll make you happy for a little while. The money's like sex, like good, having good sex with somebody, it triggers dopamine and it lasts about 6 to 9 months. And that's why people have these 6 to 9 month relationships and then they break up by Christmas time or whatever. Is because if you're just forming relationships based on sex, it doesn't last that long. So same thing is true with money. You feel when you make a lot of money, you feel really good for a short period of time, and then whatever was making you miserable before you got money, it's going to come right back. So don't think that the money itself is going to do it. It's really looking past the money, like getting past the paywall of life that will allow you to really truly be the best person you can be and have the best life that you actually want to have. All right. So anyway, I'm done talking. Thank you guys for listening. And actually, I gotta go because the guy's gonna detail my car today. I think he might be here. Crap, I gotta go check. All right. So So have a good day, everybody. Love you much, and I will see you all tomorrow. If you're not on the text list for this class, text the word morning to the phone number 87948. So text morning to 87948. Also, if you want a copy of my book, The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power, you can go to drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. See you guys soon. And and those of you that are going to the convention, don't forget, I'll send you updates about the convention. Just text the word A, B, and C. A, B, and C, it stands for All Black National Convention. Text A, B, and C to 87948.